In this video, we are going to predict where every Premier League team are going to finish this season. I did not speak about the Club World Cup, any friendlies, but proper football is starting soon, so let's discuss some proper football. We're going to go from 20th to 1st, and like it if you could tell me your predictions in the comment section below. But let's start with bottom of the league, Leeds United. My hometown, and I'm worried about them. Daniel Farke has never won more than 5 games in a Premier League season. Saying this, Daniel Farke has also only spent, I believe it's about 92 million in his career at Norwich. And he spent about 55, 58 million in his last season, and he left in the November. So you could take that away, and he spent about 30 to 40 million in his entire career. Already at Leeds this summer, he spent about 77 million. So that's the only hope, because Sean Longstaff, I think, is a great signing for Leeds. Him and Tanaka in the midfield, there's going to be so much energy. I've heard good things about this Anton Stack, and I mean, with all due respect, a cardboard cutout will be better than Islam Melia last season. So Lucas Perry has a very low bar that he's basically going to jump over. But to me, it's all about the forward line, isn't it? They've got Nemecha, they've got Perot. Bamford isn't in Farke's plans, he's already said that. I just don't see it. I don't see where the goal's going to come from. Ipswich last year had Liam Delap, who was brilliant up front, and even still, they just could not get the goals in the team. I will say it though, I do think Tanaka will be one of the breakout lower teams in the league stars next year. 19th, I'm going to go with Burnley. Burnley it's an interesting one, isn't it? Because Scott Parker made that team just an absolute fortress last year. The best signing I think they've made, and it's one of the best signings I've seen from a promoted team in a while, Marcus Edwards. Because I remember when he was coming through at Spurs, really liked him. And I remember we went to Sport in Lisbon, and I think from all accounts, I don't watch a lot of the Portuguese league, he was pretty good there. So to get him for under around 20 million, I think that's an absolute bargain. They've re-signed Bashir Humphrey from Chelsea, Twanzebe, another solid centre-back in the Premier League, and Kyle Walker, who he can offer some experience, can't he? I think his legs are gone, and we saw that at Man City and AC Milan. Look, I think if they weren't in the greater Manchester kind of area, a bit of Lancashire, I don't think Kyle Walker would have moved there. But 2 departures that I think really are going to hurt them. James Trafford, great season last year. I thought he was useless the season before that, but Man City have bought him back. And then you've also got Josh Brownhill, he's left on a free, which you're going to see a lot of teams after him at the moment. But he's got 18 goals in the Championship last season from midfield. I mean, he was great in the Premier League a few years back. So never mind now where I think it's going to be a massive... I mean, if you're a Burnley fan, tell me what has gone on with that. So 19th for Burnley, 2 out of the 3 promoted teams going straight back down, as we kind of all expect. But will it be a third one in Sunderland? And I don't think it will. I think it will be Wolverhampton Wanderers. You can't convince me Wolves have a good enough team to stay up. I mean, they've lost Matheus Cunha. He was by far their best player last season. And yes, people are going to say, well, Alex, he was suspended for a bit this season and Strand Larsen picked up the pace. 100% yes, he did, and he was brilliant. However, a 6-game stretch isn't a 38-game stretch, is it? And Matheus Cunha, I mean, he's well above his station, gone to Man United. I don't see the quality. Plus, Ryan Aït-Nouri, who's probably Wolves' second best player last season. I mean, between the two of them, they had 32 goal contributions. Wolves scored 54. I mean, just put that in your head. There was only 22 goals that weren't contributed by Aït-Nouri and Matheus Cunha. Strand Larsen, I think, will be a great one. Again, he's signed on a permanent. I didn't actually know he was on loan. And he's going to be a great FPL striker and everything like that. Probably 12 to 15 goals. However, without the service from Cunha, and also it's players like, I know he didn't play a lot last season, but Sarabia, Semedo at right back, I mean, he's been such a consistent player for them over the last 5 years. I don't see where the goal's going to come from. I think they have some good defenders, but it is relegation for me. And by the skin of the teeth, I'm going to say Sunderland are going to finish 17th. You know what? I am happy Sunderland are back, because they are a Premier League team. At the end of the day, I didn't want Sheffield United coming back up and finishing 20th again with bloody Chris Wilder just go away from the sport. And they've made some interesting, really good signings for a promoted team. Habib Diarra, hear good things about him from Strasbourg. My only point, and this might be a bit conspiracy theory or whatever, if he was that good at that age, at 21, I believe he's played about 92 games for Strasbourg, so really good. Chelsea surely would have bought him, because Chelsea, a multi-club ownership with Strasbourg, if he was that good, he would be wearing a Chelsea shirt next season. Adingra, however, I think is a brilliant signing for Sunderland. No idea what Brighton are thinking letting him go, but I think he is a quality midfielder. And then you add that with Granit Xhaka, who, how on earth have they got Granit Xhaka from Bayer Leverkusen? Came in the Bundesliga Team of the Year last year, and somehow made it his way to... I have no idea, and it's the maddest headline I've ever seen, where it says Granit Xhaka wants Sunderland move. And I think it's good because I think like a relegation battling team, they need a central midfielder who just doesn't panic in the middle of the park. Because if you lose the ball as a team like that, you're going to get absolutely hammered. I think they'll do enough to stay up. I think these avant-garde football fans, these connoisseurs, these oracles saying Sunderland are going to finish like 9th or 8th because they've signed 3 or 4 half-decent players. I mean, come on. They're not going to do that. But I think they'll do enough and they'll be an exciting team to watch next year. 16th, I'm going with Brentford. And this hurts because I like Brentford. I like the way they operate as a football club and I like Thomas Frank. But losing Mbuemo, and I'm basing this off the fact that they're going to lose Visser. They might not, but I'm pretending that they are. I mean, they've lost all the goals in the team, haven't they? I suppose a prediction could be Kevin Schade just improves and takes basically Mbueno's place. If him and Visser are up front, I mean, it's still a very dynamic, a very quick attacking line. And look, if you have watched me for a while, you know I'm not going to lie to you. I do not know who this Malambo is, who played for Feyenoord. Do not know. He could be brilliant. I'm Brentford's recruitment. Yeah, I trust he probably is a really good player. I have no idea. They've lost Flecken to Bayer Leverkusen, but they brought in Keller, who I actually think is a better player than him. And obviously the big one, they've lost Thomas Frank, their manager, for such a long time. Brought in Keith Andrews, which I like that they've hired from within because I think it shows that they're confident within the structure of the club. But I mean, it's Keith Andrews, isn't it? Barely any experience. He's been in Thomas Frank's backroom staff. And I mean, it's yet to be seen. I mean, maybe he's a breakout star or maybe he's going to take them down and be sacked by November. But then 15th, I'm going to go with Everton. And Everton, they're moving to the new stadium, aren't they? And I think they must have a new stadium bounce because it's not like West Ham leaving the bowling ground to go to the London Stadium. It's still, I think it will be a good atmosphere still. Dave Moyes will get a pre-season. They bought Alcaraz on a permanent transfer in this market for about 12 million. I think you can't really go wrong, can you? They've got rid of DCL. They've got rid of Decore. I mean, Decore is a lesser one, but I mean, Calvert-Lewin, I just think they needed to wash their hands with him. And this will be a theme in the video, but they've kept on to some of the players that they could have easily lost. Bramthwaite, O'Brien. I think those defenders, they've got such a good defence, haven't they? For that side of the table, if they'll keep 10, 15 clean sheets, won't they? I think they'll have one more season of Ndai, and I think he was brilliant, especially coming off the left last year. Beto has increased so much more. They bought a lad from Villarreal, Tieno Barry, 11 goals last year. Apparently he's big. Like I say, I've never heard of him, but he must be half decent for the amount of money they paid for him. But I just think it's going to be another okay season for Everton. They don't go down and they don't really challenge for any of the outside Europe places. 14th next, and I'm going to go with Bournemouth. My prediction with this, Iraola gone by January, February. And I don't mean he's sacked, I mean he gets just a better job. Because he is such a good coach. He should be coaching in Europe. And unfortunately, with the way Bournemouth are, they've sold Huijsen, they've sold Gyokeres. I don't think they can afford to keep him for that much longer. The only things I say about Bournemouth this year, at the moment, like I say, because I'm filming this before the season, they've kept on to Semenyo, they've kept Kluivert, Van Elsen will still be up top for them next year. So they've still got pretty much a similar team to last year. If they lose Zamagnani, I think they are going to struggle defensively massively because him and Huijsen were just brilliant together last year. And also Gyokeres was fantastic down the left wing. 13th, I'm going to go with Crystal Palace. And this isn't saying Crystal Palace will have a bad season. I just think the domestic form will suffer because I think they're going to go for it in Europe. And why I say this, I think it's going to replicate that West Ham year 3 years ago now. Because West Ham came 14th for the league. They got 40 points, but they won the Conference League. Bet you ask any... I imagine Crystal Palace fans would have wanted to challenge for the Europa League. But here we are, we're in the Conference League. And I think they're going to be really good. You also have to remember it's a World Cup year this year, so players like Eze, Wharton, Mark Gay, I mean, even someone like Mateta, if he has another great season, can he go to the World Cup with France? It's probably one of those as well that you look at if you're Steve Parish or someone, you're like, Are we realistically going to challenge for top six, especially with some teams spending a lot of money again? Or can we just go for it in the Conference League, try and win it, and then get the Europa League spot? I haven't really made too many signings. I'm sure some will come later in the window. But yeah, I think it's just going to be, again, a decent season for Palace. They're coming off the FA Cup last year, and I think they could get a bit of silverware next year. 12th, Fulham. I'm just indifferent to Fulham. I don't really care. Like, they haven't really bought anyone. They haven't really sold anyone. Vinicius, he's gone back to Brazil. Muniz might go to Leeds. I mean, that's been rumoured this whole summer, but they've been quoting 60 million. I just don't see that happening. Again, I'm sure Jimenez will have a good year. I'm sure Adama Traore will have 3 good games and we'll all lose our minds, and then it'll be terrible for the rest of the year. But yeah, again, a mid-table season. 11th, and I'm going to go Nottingham Forest for the same reason I said Crystal Palace in 13th, because I think Europe is just going to, again, derail the domestic form. They go for it in the Europa League, fair play, and I think they will go for it. But I just don't think a team like that can challenge again for top 6, even top 4, and also have a good Europa League campaign. I think it's either or. The best thing that they've done this summer, as we all know, is keeping Morgan Gibbs-White. Their captain, he's by far the best player. I put him as a top 10, 5 midfielder in the league at the moment. So keeping on to it, because I thought he was going to go to Spurs, but obviously Marinakis has taken his dog hostage or something like that. Losing Elanga, though, I think is huge because he is so dynamic. He's so quick on those wings. And I think because Forest, they defended really well last year and a lot of the goals came in transition, you're going to lose that with Elanga. Callum Hudson-Odoi, I think he is good at that, but I think he is a lot better when a team's against them and he's kind of cutting in on his right, maybe. Chris Wood, if you tell me Chris Wood's going to score 17 goals again, yeah, Forest can go back into the Europa League. I don't see it happening. And I'm hoping a player like Elliot Anderson steps up a bit more because he had a good start, but then I think he tailed off a bit. I think he took a back seat to Elanga and Gibbs-White and Chris Wood. But again, keeping Gibbs-White and especially keeping Murillo because, again, he might go. But at this moment, I thought he was going to go to Barcelona, Real Madrid, PSG or someone like that. But he's still going to be wearing a Nottingham Forest shirt. Right, 10th, I'm going to go West Ham. And I don't know about West Ham. They could either get relegated or they're going to come 10th. I have no idea because they've sold Kudus. And in my head, I'm kind of going, well, he barely scored any goals. I mean, he's a brilliant player, but he didn't convert a lot of chances last year. So is it going to be a huge miss, especially the amount of money that they've received? I mean, they did pay a lot of money for him, but they got a good sum off him. The only signing other than Todibo, who was already playing for them last year, they just signed him on a permanent. This Jew fella from Slavia Prague, apparently he's quite good. Left winger, kind of left back. I have no idea where he's going to play. But again, I don't think it's enough to really push on. I think where their ability and where their good players are going to come from are the injury players last year. So like a Fulkrug or like a Somerville. I think if they can get them back in the team and a proper run, because Somerville is a very good player. I think he just had a bit of a wobble at the start of the last season. But if he can really kick on and essentially do what he did for Leeds, I don't think West Ham are really going to miss Kudus. And if Fulkrug, I mean, who knows with Fulkrug? Maybe we were all just romanticised in the Euros and seeing him at Dortmund. But again, they've got rid of Antonio, they've got rid of Danny Ings, so it's really over to him. Right, 9th. And 9th is an unfortunate one, but it's going to be Newcastle for me. Newcastle have had one of the worst transfer windows so far. What am I recording this on? The 1st of August, so we're a couple of weeks before the season. They've been rejected by everyone. No one wants to go play for Newcastle. Mbuemo, Huijsen, Mark Gay, Leon Delap, Etatike, and now Isaac obviously wants to leave. Earlier today, there was a bid rejected for about £120 million from Liverpool. They bought Elanga, which I think is a fantastic signing, and it's a very Eddie Howe signing, isn't it? He's so energetic on those wings. Him and Gordon are going to be fantastic, but they need Isaac in the middle. They don't have Callum Wilson. I mean, they never really had Callum Wilson because he barely ever played. But if they don't have Isaac, I mean, one, they have to get someone like a Sesko. If they don't get hit, who are they going to play up front? But especially with the Champions League again, we saw it a couple of years back, their form just dropped off a cliff because they couldn't handle the squad depth. And my big question to Newcastle fans, because I'm sure you're all going to be like, why are we 9th? Centre-back. You need another centre-back because Fabian Schär, I mean, one, he's getting on, but I know he's a cult hero, he's a brilliant player. Sven Botman is a fantastic player, but he's played 25 league games in the last 2 seasons. You can't have a top quality centre back doing that. You've still got to play like Jamal Lascelles. It baffles me how a team in the Champions League still has Steve Bruce players. And I know there's that kind of romantic side of it, but I mean, come on, surely there has to be a £30 million centre back that could slip in there for Newcastle. To be honest, I think maybe even by the time this video comes out, I think Isaac could have left. Because if I was Newcastle and he wanted to leave, I'd be like, right, let's get 150, 160 million out of him, and then we can spend it on other players instead of waiting around. I mean, what if he leaves on deadline day? Then they're up shit's creek, really, aren't they? Right, 8th is maybe the one I'm not the most confident about, but it's Brighton, because I'm there. I like Fabian Hersler. I mean, he's only like 6 years older than me, so, you know, let's get a millennial coach to win something this season. They've lost João Pedro, they've lost Simon Adingra, they've lost Estupiñán to Milan, but I don't think that's massively going to matter. They've also lost Evan Ferguson, but he barely played last year regardless. But I still think they've got a really good squad. Matoma, love him. I still think he's a top player. Danny Welbeck had one of his best seasons of his career last year. Jorginho Rutter had a really good start to the year. I just think he tailed off, and I think João Pedro took a lot of his minutes. But they've also got Minter, they've got Baleba, who all these players are fantastic attackers. And you also have to think, I know it's not the only impact he had, but João Pedro, a lot of his goals were penalties last year. So I know it's not as easy as this, but if you give all of his penalties to Danny Welbeck, then he's top scorer in the league. So I don't think it's going to be a huge loss for them. I think he's going to be excellent for Chelsea. But with no Europe, I think Brighton can have a really good season this year. It's not a massive improvement on last year, but I still think that they can just keep that just above mid-table place going for a while now. 7th, I'm going to go with Aston Villa. And this is one of those that, again, by the time this video comes out, Ollie Watkins could be having a medical at Man United. You never know. But at the moment, they're in the Europa League. They have got a good squad. Their keeper did say he wanted to leave or he was going to leave. And, you know, who am I? I'm just a humble idiot, talk about football in his attic. I personally wouldn't have told all the fans that I'm going to leave without having signed a contract somewhere else. Because when Man United go, we can't afford you on a permanent, then it makes you look a bit silly. I personally don't think Villa need too many more players to be a top 4 challenging team. They need to keep Ollie Watkins, obviously. I think they need to keep Morgan Rogers. I think his development, he could turn into one of the best players in the league in the next couple of years. And it's even players like a Kamara, who I think is one of the best defensive midfielders probably in Europe at the moment. So that's all great moves that, if they can just buy a couple more players, I've seen they've been linked with Garnacho, which I think would be brilliant. I mean, they didn't get Rashford from last season. So if they can bring Garnacho in, is it tied to the Ollie Watkins deal? Potentially. But to me, they only need a few tweaks to challenge in the Europa League, try and get to the final, and maybe finish 5th, 6th or 7th next year. 6th, I'm going to go for Manchester United. Embarrassing season last year. Didn't even win the Europa League. But they have made some decent moves so far. Mbeumo and Cunha, I don't think you can go wrong with that. To me, I think that's the first time they've bought a player who can easily get 15 to 20 goals in a season since maybe Ronaldo. It's not a Haaland signing who's not really proven. It's not a Xerxes signing who's not really proven. We know what Mbeumo can do and we know what Cunha can do. And if you do look at it, they do have quite a good team. Amad Diallo had a huge injury last year and he was brilliant. Do you remember that game against Man City when he won it for them? If, and it's a big if they can get Luke Shaw fit and down that left-hand side, they're going to have a solid team. De Ligt, Yoro, I think are good centre-backs for them. And Ruben Amorim, he didn't have a pre-season last year, did he? And I think this is his first pre-season. He's trying to get rid of the bomb squad, is what he's been calling it. Marcus Rashford's gone to Barcelona. I'm hearing Sancho every day is going to go to Juventus. Garnacho's literally getting flogged off to every team in the league. And if they bring in Watkins, I mean, they could be challenging for top 4 if they do that. On the flip side, I have no idea of United because I've been saying this. I remember when they bought like Mason Mount and Nana and like Amrabat and stuff like that. Everyone's going, great transfer window. And they were terrible. But it does feel like something is slowly changing with Man United and the culture around the club. So yeah, I do think they'll come 6th. 5th is a tricky one because I'm going to go with Spurs. When I just kind of thought this through, I was like, yeah, Spurs definitely 5th. When I started doing my notes, I was kind of like, oh God, have I messed up here? Because Thomas Frank, apparently, he had a terrible start to his career at Bromby, and Brentford fans tell me, I believe he lost his first 8 games in charge at Brentford. So it could be a bit of a ropey August and September for him while he works out some of the kinks. However, I think Kudus, even though I don't think it's a massive loss for West Ham, I think it'll be a big game for Spurs because I think he will convert a lot more of his chances. Heung-min Son is just slowly kind of getting pushed out. I've seen LAFC have been interested in him. And it's a shame because I think everyone loves Heung-min Son. But he wasn't at it last season, was he? And I think if they can just replace him with Kudus, Matthias Tell has been bought on a permanent transfer. And you also have to think, if they can get Richarlison fit, I know it's a big if, Dom Solanke didn't have a brilliant year last year. They will have an excellent squad. And one of the big things, I think their conditioning staff has been completely overhauled because of the injuries last year. So we'll see how that goes because if Van der Ven and Romero stay fit, then yeah, I think they could probably challenge for 5th. If they don't stay fit, then they're just back down to mid-table, aren't they? Missing out on Gibbs White was huge though because they desperately need that central midfielder. I mean, they haven't had brilliant one. You could even argue since Moussa Dembele. Sarr and Basuma are really good players. However, they're not going to drive your team forward on the attack, are they? They are brilliant industrial midfielders that will get stuck in. And I know they've had some good goals, but Gibbs White would have been that one that he would have been the captain of Spurs in a few years, wouldn't he? I'm hoping Archie Gray plays in defensive mid this year, or at least he doesn't play in centre-back because even though I think that probably helped him quite a lot, I think it probably hindered a bit of his development because he wasn't playing in his recognised position. 4th, I'm going to go with Chelsea. And my prediction is I think it's going to be a proper heated title race this year and I think Chelsea will be involved. You look at the forward line now. I mean, just the strikers alone. Nicholas Jackson, Liam Delap and João Pedro. I mean, that is brilliant. That's the best forward line they've had in years. They've also got rid of Madueke, which you could argue I like him, but he wasn't really... I don't think he tracked back well, and I think he pressed very well, and I think in a Maresca system, he kind of needed that. But it feels like a like-for-like replacement with Gittins from Borussia Dortmund, who, to be honest, seems like he's as good as Madueke, if not even better. Will Cole Palmer take the same performances from the Club World Cup into this season? Who knows? But I think the Club World Cup is a big talking piece because they've played so many games, haven't they? Because I believe Chelsea have played the most games from all the Premier League teams. 64 to be exact. Liverpool played 54. Man City, who Champions League, everything like that, played 61, so 3 less games. And I get Chelsea have a deep squad, but they don't really use a lot of that squad because Caicedo and Enzo play most games for them. Jackson, before he got injured, played most games. Levi Colwill, Mark Cucurella. You know, they weren't getting rotated often because in those positions, they didn't have a lot of depth. So I think it could catch up on them. And also the fact that it's a World Cup year, I think that's probably a positive because someone like Cole Palmer, before the Euros, he was absolutely brilliant. That was his 20 goal a season year. But still, I think just the amount of games, it's just going to so catch up on them. But then let's move on to 3rd because Man City, 61 games. And I think that will potentially also catch up on them as well. I don't think they're going to win the title. Rodri is coming back and any team who loses a Ballon d'Or winner, look, it's going to derail the season even slightly. So him coming back is just fantastic for them, isn't it? Bringing Ryan Aït-Nouri, they haven't had a good left back for, ages. Even someone like a Benjamin Mendy, I think was okay, wasn't he? Then you brought in a player like Ryan Cherky, who, is he going to be like the kind of Bernardo replacement? Because you saw at the end of last season, Bernardo Silva was slowing down. I really like Ryan Cherky. I think he's one of the most talented players in Europe at the moment. But again, it's that whole attitude. Because I think that's been one of the most contentious bits about him. Will he want it enough? Or is he going to be, I don't just want to compare him because they came from Lyon, but will he just be a bit of a Ben Arthur? Haaland will be Haaland, won't he? But I think the biggest piece of Man City, and it was last year as well, it's Phil Foden, isn't it? 2 seasons ago, he was the Premier League Player of the Year. Last season, he barely played. So, and especially if Kevin De Bruyne going to Napoli, someone has to fill that hole. And I feel if Phil Foden doesn't do it next year, surely they're going to have to look for a top attacking midfielder. If you're telling me Phil Foden's going to be the same from 2 seasons ago, or City are straight back in that title, at the front of that title race, I just don't see it because he just was nowhere near it last year. So the top 2, who do you reckon is going to win the league this year? Let me see, either Arsenal or Liverpool on this list. You know what? I am going to say Liverpool are going to finish 2nd. And that is a big one because they have made some huge signings, even if they sign Isaac. I mean, to be fair, if they do sign Isaac, it could be a different story. But at the moment, they haven't. The reason I say this is, one, it's horrible, isn't it? It's so sad, but they're still mourning. They're still going to be mourning over Diogo Jota. It was such a tragic event that I think because life just goes on, people forget that Andy Robertson or Van Dijk or Salah or Nunes, they will all be really close to him. That isn't just easy to just move on from. So I think it's going to be a struggle. But just from a pure football perspective, Florian Wirtz is one of the best players in the world. And it's one of the first times I've seen Liverpool buy one of the best players in the world. Maybe Thiago was the last one, but that didn't really pan out the way they would have liked. But I think him and Frimpong and Gyokeres, Etitike is still unknown. He's quite improving, but he looks brilliant so far. It's all fantastic. But there's a gaping hole, and that's in the defence again. Because they've sold Kwanzaa, and I don't really know why. I'm sure it's the PSR rules. But they need a centre-back. Joe Gomez is not good enough, and he's not fit enough. Kanate looks like he wants to leave. And Van Dijk is, he's fantastic. He's the best in the world. But he's getting on. I think he's 33 now. And I'm not saying he's going to be past himself, but eventually he's going to go on the decline. Look, I think adding Gyokeres to the team is brilliant. I think Robertson, he was going downhill, so that will really help. I just don't think it's enough. And I think in those tight positions, look, I think both teams are going to probably get 90 plus points. But I just think in those really tough situations, Arsenal, who I'll go on to in a sec, they have Gabriel and Saliba, and they have Calafiori, and they have Ben White, and they have such a solid defence that I think that's going to really help them. But let's go on to Arsenal, and will it ever be their year? I think this surely has to be the last chance they have at a title race. Gyokeres, he is the key, isn't he? Gyokeres is either going to be the key to them finishing first or finishing fourth, because, he scored 68 goals in the last 2 years in the league. I don't care if that's in the Portuguese league or if that's in the West Yorkshire Counties League. You're still bagging them in, which Arsenal need. Kai Havertz is a very good player, and he's got a lot better since come to Arsenal. However, he's not Gyokeres, and we've seen him on the European stage. He's got a hat-trick against Man City. We know what the lad can do, and I'm quite interested to see how good he will be in the Premier League. They've still got Bukayo Saka, who is one of the best players in the world, in my opinion, and I think, again, World Cup coming up, Bukayo Saka wants to be the best player for England for that. And you look at Madueke as well, because Martinelli sloped off a bit at the end of last season. Madueke comes in, gets some of that slack. I think that can really help them. Trossard is still in there. I think a great signing. We'll move on to one in a sec, but Christian Norgard. What a little cheap signing that was by Arteta. He is a top centre-mid player that I think Brentford are going to miss so much. But if they've lost Thomas Partey, him, Declan Rice, and then Zubimendi, who will go into a sec, what midfield that's going to be for Arsenal. And like I say, Zubimendi, from all accounts, Liverpool wanted him last year. Apparently he's Sergio Busquets 2.0. That's what I've heard. So I'm a bit in the Euros, and I haven't really seen Real Sociedad. But to me, sometimes football is as basic as that. Arsenal created so many chances. They keep so many clean sheets. They just need someone to put it in the back of the net. And if Gyokeres can be that person, they win the league. Look at the last few seasons. Against Man City, they were a couple of points off. If they had a striker like Haaland, they win that league. If they had a striker maybe not last year, because I think the whole team tailed off. But you know what I'm talking about. If they just had a player who could finish chances, they might have gone through in the Champions League against PSG. It's all these things that they have everything in place except from the man up top, but now they have him, and I think he's going to be the key to make Arsenal win the league this season. But let me know who you think is going to win the league. Let me know who you think is going to get relegated to the Champions League. Feel free just to put 20th to 1st in the comment section, because I'll be interested to see what you guys think. I'm sure the Arsenal one might be a bit of a contentious issue, but I really do think they're going to win the league this year. But like I say, put in the comment section below, like this video, share it, subscribe if you enjoyed it. But thanks for watching.